will I play as long as I go number one in the draft?
From the Erie Otters, Connor McDavid.
From the London Knights, Mitch Marner.
From the Western Hockey League's Brandon Wheat Kings, Nolan Patrick.
This is Tracking the Draft with Craig Button.
He checks an enormous amount of boxes. Nobody in this draft did more with less. I absolutely love him. It's not his skills that anybody's concerned about. It's that playing attitude. And quite frankly, it's really poor.
Speeding towards the future of the NHL.
From the U.S. Development Program, Jacob Truba.
From Färjestad of the Swedish Elite League, Jonas Brodin.
From the Boston U Terriers, Brady Tkachuk.
He could play in the NHL next year. He's one of those guys.
Here's your host, Dean Millard.
Hello there and welcome to another season of Tracking the Draft with Craig Button. The Director of Scouting for TSN will be along very shortly. This is Season 3, Episode 1. My name is Dean Millard, and it is an absolute pleasure to be talking prospects with you. The stars of tomorrow are discovered and discussed here, and we have a great kickoff show for you. We are going to take a look at the Craig's List, recently released on Tuesday at tsn.ca. We're going to focus in on the top 10. We're going to take a look at 2022 draft scouting in general. And because of what happened last year, with so many leagues not playing, how that is impacting maybe some early rankings and, how scouting might be portrayed as the season goes. And we're going to discuss the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors. You are not going to want to miss out on this Dynasty World Junior Fantasy League. But I warn you, if we are successful in getting a team, you will be drafting against the Director of Scouting, the former GM of the Calgary Flames, Craig Button. So we got a great show for you, and Craig joins us on the UFWJ hotline. Check out the details at UFFsports.com, brand new wicked website. Become a scout, get in the act as a scout for the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, or try to get into a franchise with the auctions this weekend for UFWJ. It is going to be the ultimate in World Junior action. 10 franchises, just like in the World Juniors. There are 10 countries. You get to make your own brand, you get to make your own flag, and then you draft and try to dominate. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to want to get in the game, and we'll tell you in a little bit just how you can register to bid on an Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors franchise. This show is broadcast on UFSN, Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network, your one-stop shop for fantasy sports programming. We got a lot of great stuff growing, just like UFFS in general. If you are interested in getting your fantasy sports show on the network, it's UFSN at uffsports.com. Or you can follow on Twitter at UFS Network. Twitter DMs are open. So without further ado, it is time to bring in the one and only Mr. Craig Button.
Here he is. The Director of Scouting for TSN, former GM of the Calgary Flames, and a Stanley Cup champion with the Dallas Stars. Plus, he's a sharp-dressed man with a heart of gold and a passion to match it. Craig Button.
It's been quite a while since we've talked face-to-face. Of course, we stay in touch with Duckman's Domination and you with high-level scouting with Trish, but we're back for another season of Tracking the Draft. I couldn't be happier to be working with you again, Craig.
It's a thrill, and you know what? I mean, you have such a passion for what you do, for the players, for the prospects in the draft, and for me, being able to share some time with you to talk about the prospects and to try to not only shed light on the players, but shine light on the players, because this is the future of not only the National Hockey League, but you talk about the Ultimate Fantasy leagues. people want to know what players should I be getting, right? I mean, I get those notes from you and Trish, and you know what? It's no different than when a general manager would ask me back when I was working in management. What do you think about this player? Yeah, okay. Here's what I think. Here's what my thoughts are. Then ultimately, you got to make a decision. But I always enjoy our time together.
Excellent stuff. Well, we're going to get into a little bit of your top 10 on the Craig's list, which was just released at tsn.ca on Tuesday. So really exciting about that. But also, it's an interesting draft. There's been a lot of, or interesting draft year in the last 2 years, obviously. And there's been a lot of talk about maybe some of the Europeans being a bit farther ahead just because of the lack of viewings. And the lack of viewings last year is going to cause some movement in the rankings, I think, throughout the year. Do you not think?
Absolutely, Dean. And if we rewind our clock and our calendars back to March of 2020, there's players that didn't play for 17 months. There's players that didn't play very much in 17 months. And even when they were playing, it was interrupted, you know, at different points in times with these starts and stops, which were necessitated by the pandemic. So, you know, when you look at it and go, okay, great, they're playing now. But what, from a scouting perspective, what you don't have is you don't have the benefit of watching 17 months of consistent evaluation, which helps you, you know, gauge improvement, which helps you gauge progress, which helps you ultimately gauge projection. Because, you know, ultimately when you're drafting the players for the NHL draft, you're projecting where you think they're going to be when they get to a more full level of maturity. And that's 2, 3, 4 years time in most cases. So, you know, but you use the past as a guideline for projecting the future. Well, 17 months is gone now. It's gone. You don't have the benefit of using those 17 months to really get an understanding of where these players, because a big part of it is how far have they come? I'll give you an example. So Shane Wright, we've known about Shane Wright. We've known about Brad Lambert for a lot of years, okay? Because they came onto the scene at a time where they were far more advanced. We didn't know the vast majority of the other players in this draft class of 2022. So now you're getting information on these players, you're watching it, and you're trying to squeeze, you know, those 17 months into a much shorter period of time. And I know that the NHL scouts are, you know, canvassing hard, working hard, trying to get as much information as they can. But even if you go back and you want to talk to U16 coaches for the Ontario kids or European coach, why can't you tell me? Well, they didn't play last year. I can't tell you anything. Well, now you're going back to U15. What can you tell me? Well, you've seen Matty Savoy play since he was young. I've seen Matty Savoy play since he was young. So I have the benefit of having that guideline with him and Lambert and David Yurichuk and Shane Wright. But the vast majority of them, we don't have that. So, you know, it's going to have to be a patient process. It's going to have to be one where you're going to have to really invest in watching the players as much as you can, because you might watch a player 2 or 3 times and go, okay, I'm really comfortable with them. But the question becomes, how comfortable? When you've watched them in April of 2020, July of 2020, fall of 2020, spring of 2021, into the summer of 2021 till now, well, 2 or 3 times can give you a real good, what I like to call data points. You don't have those previous data points. So 2 or 3 times, I don't think it's going to give you the level of confidence you need to be, you know, what I would say, real confident in your assessments. So it's going to be a work in progress, and I think you're going to see a lot of changes. And I don't think the European players have a leg up necessarily, because they had a lot of stops and starts. The junior leagues in Sweden didn't play. They didn't play. So you got a lot of Swedish players that didn't get an opportunity to play. You know, in Eastern Europe, in Slovakia, and Czech Republic, and Russia, yeah, they had opportunities to play somewhat, but not to the same extent that they were accustomed to. Finland, the same. So it's going to be it needs to be a very patient process this year with assessing the players.
And a lot can change. When we're talking about going back to a U15 year or whatever it might be, or 16, a lot of development happens, and players can move up and down. One guy who didn't move anywhere, he's been number one the entire time. And I remember the conversations, between you and Trish through email and talks going into that very first scout auction. And this was a guy that you clearly targeted for high-level scouting. And he has not done anything to waver at all. I remember I asked you about him, wading into the U18s, and he didn't wade in. He just dominated that time. So when you make the comparison of Patrice Bergeron, that's really exciting. And I think a lot of people get so caught up in how good defensively Bergeron is, they forget how gifted offensively he is. So tell me about the things about Shane Wright that you see in Bergeron's case.
Well, the first thing I would say is precision. That's the word I've chosen to use now with Shane Wright. And when you think about the way Patrice plays, there's a precision to it. His positioning, the way he passes the puck, the way he understands what the opponents are doing when he's trying to kill the penalty or play defensive hockey. You don't win the Selke Trophy by not being attuned to those types of details. Offensively, he knows where his wingers are. He knows where to exploit opportunity and where he can take advantage. And when you do it in such a precise way, it's almost clinical and surgical. Think about this, Steve. We watch the games, we watch the highlight shows and everything. How many times do you think that Patrice Bergeron has had the highlight of the night or been on highlight reel events? I can't think of, I'm sure he's been on once or twice, but it's not like Connor McDavid. And that's Shane Wright also. But if you go and watch the game, and when they're on the ice, they show up everywhere. They show up all the time. They're in every frame, defensively, offensively, transition, every area of the game. And so when I watch Shane Wright play, I see exactly that. I see somebody that's got that exceptional sense of the game, that ability to make plays, with the puck, whether it be shooting it or making plays without the puck, reading the play, skating, power, competitiveness. That's Patrice Bergeron. Patrice Bergeron is a Hall of Famer. And so I'm sitting here now thinking about Shane Wright. I think it's easy to say, oh yeah, I'm projecting Crosby and I'm projecting McDavid to be Hall of Famers. Yeah, I am. And they're going to be. You can't say that about very many players. And certainly when Patrice Bergeron won his draft year, you wouldn't sit down and go, oh, he's a Hall of Famer. He was a second-round draft pick. And I can't say that about Shane Wright. But I do know this. When I watch Shane play, and I saw him play again last Saturday, I just see this, what I call cut above. This cut above ability to just be able to do so many things and so many things well and impact the game in a significant way. That's Patrice Bergeron.
It's an exciting comparison, and certainly I know a lot of people are waiting to see this guy at the World Juniors, which we'll touch on in a bit. But there is, definitely a number one, and then everybody else is chasing. So let's start with the guy who's number two on your list, Logan Cooley, who's also, you've called him a really kind of a two-way, all-around kind of guy. What are the things that Logan Cooley has done to get on your number two spot in the last little while, playing for that national development team in the U.S.?
Well, first of all, he's one of the players, and there's many others on this list that, you didn't have a background on them 2 and 3 years ago because they hadn't identified themselves as prospects. But I mean, what Logan has done clearly is identified himself as a top-notch elite prospect. I mean, to me, he's a number one center. He's so quick. He's quick. He's quick with his skating, but he's also quick in his decision making. He recognizes, hey, there's an opportunity, I'm going to exploit it. There's a play, I got to get the puck to my winger. Defenseman jumping into the attack, I have to get the puck to him because that's where the best chance is going to be to get a scoring chance. And when you watch Logan play, he does it with a real ease, but outstanding hockey sense. Excellent skater, excellent puck skills, and When I look at what I consider to be what I project as true number one centers, I see Logan Cooley exactly in that class. That ability to find the smallest of openings, and when he gets through the smallest of openings, he gets through them cleanly, and he gets through them where it opens up even greater space for himself to take advantage of his skills. He can shoot the puck, he can pass the puck, and one of the things that I think is essential to being able to have success in the NHL, you got to be able to play at the pace of the league, and you got to be able to think at the pace of the league. He thinks it at the higher level.
All right, let's take a look at players 3, 4, and 5 on your list. Joachim Kemmel, Yura Slavkovsky, and Matt Savoy. Savoy and Kemmel, just judging by statistics, and you said, we've seen Savoy around here. They seem to be, gravitating more towards the goal scoring. What are the differences between those three guys? And do you think some of these names are just going to be interchanged throughout the year, depending on, how a guy is playing or isn't playing at a time?
Yeah, I never, Dean. I think you know this about me. I never approach it with they played good, therefore they should be higher on the list, or they didn't play as well. I'm always looking at it. I like to say I'm playing the long game. That's what I'm doing. And the players, you're projecting them out. Tell me what player hasn't had an off night. Tell me what player hasn't had an off week. And if you go and watch a player and he doesn't play so well, that doesn't mean he's not a good player. And conversely, just because a player plays good doesn't mean he's a good player. You got to put it all into perspective, and that's how I always approach it. Kemmel, I mean, he's injured right now. He's going to be out for a few weeks. 17-year-old player playing in the SM Liga in Finland, the top pro league. Before he got hurt, he was leading the entire league in goal scoring and points. 17 years old. That's pretty significant when you look at somebody at that age. Watching him in the U16 and the U17 here, I mean, you could see the skill and you could see that he had a real desire. Well, now, maturity, playing more, getting an opportunity to play with better players. He's absolutely shining. He's a winger that gets himself invested in the hard areas to score, the slot area. He can score with a shot. He can score with his hands in tight. He's hungry to score, and he's only going to get that much better. Slavkovsky is a very different type of player. He's a big, imposing type centerman. I don't think he's ever going to put up the same type of offensive numbers as a Kemmel or as a Matty Savoy. But I believe that he can impact the game in so many different ways. He can make the game really, really difficult and challenging for opponents because he knows where he wants to go and he can get there. And he's got good skills and good, strong sense of the game with and without the puck. And so, you think about those types of centermen, they don't come along. Matty Savoy, I mean, what's impressed me the most about Matty is, and having watched him since he was 14, is that when you're so much better than everybody in your age group, and you can skate by players and shoot the puck, and there's not a lot of ability for the opponents to stymie you or stop you, and that's what I mean. That skill is still there, but as you move up the levels, you got to be able to look at your skills and use your skills in different ways. What I've seen with Matty is that ability to do different things with his skating, to do different things with his puck skills. He doesn't have to skate by everybody and shoot the puck to score. He is, by slowing down and understanding that I don't always have to go at one speed. I can speed up, I can slow down, I can change pace. He's still fast, but he keeps opponents off balance. He was always a good shooter, but now you take away his shot, well, now he's an excellent playmaker. So now his game has become, he can create so many different challenges for opponents with the different skill sets he has. I've seen a lot of young players that excelled at the lower age groups and amongst their age group. And now as they try to adapt it, as they move up the levels, have real difficulty, and some never figure it out. When I watch Matty now and see how much he's adapted his game, his skill set is still excellent. but his ability to use that skill set in multiple ways and attack, I got to tell you, massively impressed with Matt Savoy. I think he's moved himself right into a conversation to be invited to the World Junior Camp in December. Right? That's how good his game is and how well he has played.
Well, speaking of the World Juniors, Tracking the Draft with Craig is presented each week, and Craig joins us courtesy of the Ultimate Franchise World Juniors Hotline. This is awesome, and I know you're excited, and I know you're kind enough to do a video for us and get the hype out, but this is it. World Junior Dynasty League. Only 10 franchises, just like only 10 countries. You get to create your own flag, your brand, and then the draft begins. So you have to register to bid to get in the franchise auction, which is this weekend. You have to email Andrea A. Coranda at UFFsports.com to get in the game. And Craig, you know, you and I both love the World Juniors. This is a dynasty, the first of its kind. We will hopefully we will be bidding on a franchise in this. And geez, I'm wondering if I could maybe find somebody to give me some draft advice on the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors. We will be reaching out, obviously, to you, Craig, for some help if you do get this franchise. But my question is, when you're looking at a dynasty, it's a dynasty. So, is a guy like Bedard a guy that you might take first overall? Shane Wright is going to be one and done. We know that. Bedard could be in two. So there's some strategy that goes in if you had that first overall pick. Do you take maybe the best player in the tournament who's one and done? Or do you take a younger guy, and there's lots of Europeans, lots of Russians? What do you think the strategy is with this?
Well, I mean, number one, I can't give my strategy away on this episode, because then you and Trish are going to be exceptionally mad at me about not providing that information. Hey, listen, I'm loyal to you and Trish. That's where my loyalties lie. So what I would tell you is that, I have a lot of knowledge. And does that mean I'm going to be absolutely right and others don't? No, I'm not going to tell you that. But I can tell you what my strategy would be. And we're going to do that privately. And when what I am going to do is that I'm going to tease it. Connor Bedard would not be my first pick, not in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, I like that. I really like that, and I really look forward to.
Not for the World Junior.
That's right. Yeah, for the World Junior. But it'll be fun. We'll do a World Junior preview show as we get closer with the Ultimate.
Sure.
So we'll have a lot of fun with that. It's going to be, and I'm glad you've kept your thoughts. You teased everybody, and we'll shock them at the draft, or not.
I'll help you with the goaltenders, the defensemen, the forwards. I feel really good that, listen, we got to find a way to get the team. That's the bottom line, so that we can rule the World Junior Fantasy Draft. We got to rule it.
25 player rosters. I mean, even that last player on maybe a relegation team, if they get a point, it's going to help you win that. So you really, we know the stars. You have to know some of the guys that maybe everybody else doesn't. And we won't give away our secrets on this show, of course, but we're going to have a lot of fun with that, just like we're having with your top 10. So let's jump back into that now. And this defenseman, the first defenseman, Simon Nemec, it's interesting poise with this guy. Like he seems to be, I used to say Chris Pronger could play in a rocking chair or something like that. And this guy, from what I've seen on some of the video, he seems calm under pressure. There's actually a scout in Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League that thinks Simon Nemec, his name is Arnie S. from Pipeline, thinks this guy could end up in the top 3. I'm not sure about that. The season has to go, but tell me a little bit about the poise on this player when you watch it.
Well, I think that your eyes are not lying to you, because he does have excellent poise. I'm not going to disagree with the scout that thinks he could be top 3. He's that good. And let me just tell you this. Last year, watching him at the World Junior Tournament, I was blown away, because you keep looking at the birth date, you keep looking at 04, and you're watching on the ice, and you're watching the things he does. And there was a few times in the games where it looked like he was trapped. And all of a sudden, no, he's not trapped. It's almost like he wants to make the opponent think you have him trapped before he says, not here, not now. And when you're that young, and him and Slavkovsky were young players on that Slovakia team without a lot of support around them. And when you watch how much they can contribute and how willing they are to contribute within the context of the game. I mean, the World Junior is challenging. They were 16-year-old kids playing at a high level. Like, I can only tell you this, like, they're going to be really good players for Slovakia. Slovakia is going to be a hard out for any team playing them in this year's World Junior Tournament. I can guarantee you that. I mean, I have 3 Slovaks in my first round of Craig's list the other day. Slavkovsky at 4, Nemec at 6, and Mazar somewhere. Well, I can tell you where I have Mazar. I have them at 20. They're all going to be there. They're all good players. You got Martin Kromiak from the Kingston Frontenacs, who played last year. You have the Vegas Golden Knights draft pick that's playing up with the Edmonton Oil Kings, who's a really good player. So this team now has depth, and Simon is going to run. He's going to run it from the back end. Him and Bikash, who played last year, he's an 03 born. They're going to be real instrumental and real strong for this team at the World Junior Championships. Slovakia is not going to be taking a backseat to anybody. That I'm convinced of, and Simon's going to be a big part of it.
Looking forward to that for sure. I think it's going to be really, really awesome to see all of that play out. All right, let's look at these next 3 forwards. 2 Russians and a Finn. What separates these players?
Maybe nothing. One of my caveats, and you know this about me, Dean, is that I know we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm pretty clear on myself when I put 1 beside Shane Wright. But if somebody came to me and said, hey, like you just said, hey, listen, I think Simon Nemec could be a guy that would be in the top 3. I couldn't argue with that. I mean, Cooley's different than Kemmel, who's different than Slavkovsky, who's different than Savoy, who's different than Urov. They're all different players. It would be so easy if they were all the same type of player, right? But you know what? Like, you go and you say, okay, what does this player offer? What do we like? What could we use? And sometimes it just comes, what do we want? And so when I say there's not much separating them, I really mean that. I mean, anybody. I could make a case for Leka Ramaki being better than Urov and Miroshnichenko and anywhere around. So now it becomes imperative to try to, assess what the players are, what they could be, and what attributes you want to add to your team. So with Urov, what I will tell you is, and I don't use this term lightly, he's a Marian Hossa type player. Wow. Marian Hossa just went into the Hockey Hall of Fame. So he's big, he's strong, he can make plays, he can play without the puck, he hunts the puck, he hounds the puck, he's hard to push away, he can play with top end skilled players. Is he going to be the most top end elite offensive player? No, but is he going to be able to hold his own? Yeah, he will be able to do that. And a really, really strong player in so many different regards, and a big time motor. He's hard to deny. He's a player that, when he says this is where I want to go, that's where he goes. And I think it's he's just so impressive. Miroshnichenko is a hungry goal scorer. He's hungry. He wants to get it around the net, and he can shoot the puck. He's got great hands in tight, and he's got a bulldog attitude to scoring. It's like, stop me. When you get to the goal line and you need that running back to just get it over the goal line from 1 yard out, that's Miroshnichenko's attitude. I'm getting it in there. You know what? It would be really nice to catch the ball in the open field or to have a jet sweep and nobody touches me. But if he can't do that, he's going right into the heart of it, and he wants to score. And when I say hungry bulldog type score, that's Miroshnichenko. Leka Ramaki, I'll tell you what, he's smooth. He's smooth with respect to his abilities. And You know, like a lot of players with high-end skill, they sometimes make it look so easy. It's not easy, but he knows where to be at the right times. He knows when to arrive at the right times, and almost like a soccer striker. He's got that type of ability. When the opportunity is there and it's done and it's over with, and you know he is celebrating. And one of the things when you watch him and you think about him playing with better players, with players that can get him the puck, and he's going to be able to go and take advantage of other players' skills at the higher levels. I think he's got a chance to be a really, really good offensive player, a really good NHL offensive player.
That's exciting descriptions about all those players. And anytime somebody's getting compared to Marian Hossa, that's amazing, because I'll tell you, I have seen, and you have seen, incredibly skilled and really talented players that can do a lot of great things with the puck. I've never seen a better junior player live in person than Marian Hossa in 1998 when they steamrolled the Brandon Wheat Kings in the WHL final. 98, 97. But they were a great team. And as far as the most complete player I've seen live in junior, Marian Hossa he blew me away, Craig. And anytime there's a comparison to that, just like we talked about a comparison to a Patrice Bergeron, you are getting one of the most complete players in the game.
Well, you are. And again, you know, when you talk about Marion and you watch him, and, you know, so the scout you talked to said Nemec could end up being in the top three. Well, you're off could too. But, I mean, I get this every time I get this. And I get it from a lot of, what about this player? What about that player?
Mm-hmm.
And I have an open mind. I don't try to defend my list in the sense of like, this is why I have them there. I think there is a broad range of evaluation, you know, with the numbers. But we look at somebody at 20 and they go, oh, geez, he's not as good as the guy you have at 37. I get that. I get that. And early on, in the absence, when I say about the last 17 months from March, May of 2020 into the beginning of this season, that's a long time. So there's a lot of good players in this draft. And you know, it's like any other draft. They're going to identify themselves, and some of the players are going to get a lot better, and they're going to show that they're worthy of even greater notoriety. You know, one of the things, and I got asked this about Brad Lambert. I think Brad Lambert's a good NHL prospect. He's just not in that elite class for me right now. Not because he's dropped. It's because these other players who we didn't know anything about. I didn't know anything about Logan Cooley when I was watching Brad Lambert play. I can watch Brad Lambert and Shane Wright and Matty Savoy and go, geez, those guys have NHL qualities and NHL skills. But it was such a small group of the bigger set of players. I didn't know Logan Cooley or Joachim Kemmel or Simon Nemec or Daniel Uroff when those guys were identifying themselves. Now, when the group becomes more well-known, and you know, why is he dropped? Well, he hasn't dropped. Maybe he's just found his level. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like water. Water will always find its level, right? It doesn't mean that that he's not going to be a good NHL player. It's just that these other players are so good.
It happens every year with more than one player, so we should never be surprised that a top prospect drops a little bit, or a guy who is maybe off the radar for some rises up a little bit. And let's wrap up.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's wrap up with Ty Nelson now. Another defenseman on your list. Last year, heavy on defensemen. This year, heavy on forwards in the top. So tell us a little bit about Ty, who plays for North Bay in the OHL.
Well, let me just tell you this, okay? Like, he was the first overall pick in the OHL draft back in 2020. Didn't play last year. He's one of those players that had 17 months, didn't play. Did not play. And so, you know, again, but watching him play, and I've seen him a half a dozen times now, and I'm watching him play, and I'm just like so impressed. He reminds me of Ryan Ellis. That's who he reminds me of. And you know, Ryan. You know, there's other defensemen in the league that don't have a lot of height to them. The reason I compare him to Ryan Ellis is because he's got a great mind for the game. He's got that ability to create things with his playmaking. He's got a good shot in the offensive zone. He makes plays, but Ryan Ellis was such a great competitor in his own zone and matching up one-on-one physically with other teams' players. That's what Ty does. There's no area of the game where he's not invested in trying to make a difference. And I watched Neil Pionk play with the Winnipeg Jets, and on a Tuesday night where they faced the Oilers, he went right up and right after Leon Draisaitl at every time. Connor McDavid got a penalty for giving him a reverse shoulder roughing penalty. And Neil Pionk is a good player. And when I watch Ty Nelson play, and I use the example of Ryan Ellis, Neil Pionk, that's what I see in this young man. He is so good, and not only with his skills, but with his competitive spirit. And people will say, oh, yeah, 5'10" defenseman. Yeah, he's 195 pounds with great leverage. And let me just tell you what, if you're bigger than him, he takes inches away from you. Right. He doesn't need inches for himself. He takes them away from you.
Awesome stuff, Craig. So great to be chatting with you, tracking the draft once again, and filling the scouts and GMs in the UFHL with all kinds of information. And of course, we have the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors franchise auction this weekend. Email akarandak@uffsports.com to register. And then if we get a team, you'll be drafting against Craig and Craig's mind and everything else. We're going to have so much fun. And the World Juniors are in our own backyard, so we'll actually get to go for dinner. How about a novel idea like that? So thank you so much, Craig, once again for joining us on another season of Tracking the Draft.
Oh, always my pleasure, and I'll look forward to it every week, Dean.
This is a serious message.
Craig Button joins us on the Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports Hotline. Become a scout and make money while providing prospects to the Ultimate Franchise Hockey League.
What you talking about, mister?
Pay that man his money.
I'm your huckleberry.
Check out the details at www.uffsports.com.
It's serious. I like it a lot.
I said we got to win it.
UFFS. You own the game.
All right. Another great episode, almost in the books, and it's always fun chatting with Craig, and even better that if we're successful in getting a franchise, we can tap him as our GM to do our drafting. I think it will work out pretty well, but no guarantee. We might not get the top pick. There's only 10 franchises. We might not even get a franchise if the bidding is that amazing. And just remember, if you want to get in, there's the email on the screen. Email Andrea Karandak, akarandak@uffsports.com to register to bid in the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors franchise auction this weekend. Larry and I are going to have a whole lot more details, Larry Fisher and I, on UFHL now this Friday, and then him and I will have a wrap-up show for Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors on Sunday. And don't forget, we will be doing Craig's Counsel throughout the year. So if you have some questions about scouting or past players or anything like that, send them our way, trackingthedraft@gmail.com, and we will put them in the list and ask Craig. We'll do that a couple of times throughout the season. All right. That is going to wrap things up for us on the show. Make sure you're checking out the brand new www.uffsports.com. This is where the ultimate NFTs come to play. You will want to see what we have going on there. It is absolutely outstanding. uffsports.com, and then head to the NFT section or more. Explore whatever you want to do. Thanks so much to Craig Button for joining us on the program. Best of luck to all of you scouts out there in the UFHL, and this weekend for all you bidders on a franchise in Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Have yourself a great rest of the week.